Admiral Richardson, it is an honor to have you at the Reagan Library. We really appreciate it. We know you're a very busy man, but to spend a few minutes with us is just terrific, so thank you.
No, I got to tell you, the pleasure is really all mine. It's my first time here, and what a wonderful facility it is. It's very world-class in every respect.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'll take you back. I just wondered, where were you in the Reagan years? High school or, you know?
No, I'm a little bit older than that, actually, but I was, finishing my time at the Naval Academy and then graduating and going out to be a junior officer in the Navy. And I will tell you, thinking back to those times, it's fascinating to appreciate how much is different and how much has stayed the same.
Yeah.
And so, back then, as you know, we were in the midst of the Cold War, maybe even at the height of it, kind of a culminating point, much of that driven by the vision of President Reagan.
Right.
And so I spent an awful lot of my time as a junior officer at sea, underwater, in that underwater chess game that we were playing with the Soviet Union at the time.
Yeah, it's interesting you'd say the underwater chess game. I was originally in Department of Defense, went out into the business world, and I'm trying to determine what is that point in history where not just the Navy but all of our armed forces made or had to make the shift from a strategy which said we need to fight two conventional wars simultaneously and have that capacity to where we sit today. I know that there's no longer a dream for a 600-ship Navy, but maybe there's no need for a 600-ship Navy.
Right.
I was wondering what you think about the force structure today and whether you think are we set to win?
Right. Well, this is the part about our Navy that has not changed since President Reagan's time, which is that we are engaged around the world. We are a global nation, the United States is, and therefore we have a global Navy to make sure that in those areas around the world where we have strategic interests, that we are present and capable to make sure that we can protect and even advance those interests. And so that, I think, is the thing that it remains constant since President Reagan's time. I think also there is a sound and broad realization that a strong Navy is completely parallel with having a strong nation, and so we do remain a global Navy. We remain extremely capable, ready to meet any challenge that comes our way.
The situation in the South China Sea, I know you're of the military, not in the political the world, and so I'm not asking you to forecast what might happen geopolitically with China, but I was wondering if from a naval perspective, is the potentially growing threat there something that the media is overblowing, or no, this is something, it's an important strategic issue that the Navy needs to pay attention to?
Well, it certainly is an important strategic issue. There's no doubt about that. It's an extremely important part of the world. And so 30% of our trade the world's trade, goes through the South China Sea. And, the current system of international laws and norms that govern that traffic are very open, if you will. They allow everybody, big and small, to take their best shot, to compete on a level playing field, and prosper to the degree that their maritime force allows. And so that is really what we stand for in terms of our engagement in that part of the world and really around globally. And so as you see maybe contesting worldviews or contesting different types of ideas in terms of what rule set should govern that part of the world, we remain committed to the system of international laws and norms that allow everybody to have a fair chance to prosper.
Got it. Final question for you. When these defense forums at the Reagan Library first began, there was the ominous cloud of sequestration heading towards our armed forces, and we've met the days of sequestration. I think we may have a budget deal now, but I was wondering if you could say, like for the average sailor out there, what is sequestration or these declining or uncertain budget years meant to them? Is it really, it's affect the readiness of the Navy on a day-to-day basis?
Well, we've been very clear about that. At the 2013 sequestration, we are still recovering from that in 2015. And what that meant to the average sailor and really to the average American is that where your Navy is programmed to be ready to protect our interests around the world, whether that be forces that were forward, and we certainly prioritized to make sure that our deployed forces were ready in every respect. We would never do anything less than that. But those forces that remain back home, ready to reinforce if called, those forces took a readiness hit. And so, how was that felt? Well, those are pilots that did not get a chance to fly the hours that they needed for full training. That was equipment that was not repaired because the parts were not available. And so it was very, very tangible all the way down to the deck plate sailor, and you accumulate all of those effects. And as I said, we're still digging out of the readiness hole that was dug by that year of sequestration.
Yeah, it sounds a little reminiscent of the time right before President Reagan took office. The same issues with our armed forces not being funded to the extent that they really should have been, and lack of readiness because of a lack of money.
Mm-hmm. Right, but I'm hopeful that through efforts like the Reagan Defense Forum and others, that we will grow the awareness of how can we best fill that gap between what I think we would all agree is a very challenging international situation. The security environment is only growing more challenging. And by virtue of the terrific forum that you have here, we get leaders from across the government who are interested in defense and figure out how we can solve that problem.
Great. Admiral, I can't thank you enough for it's an honor to have you here at the Reagan Library.
No, pleasure's all mine. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so
All
much.
right. All right.